Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to another edition of the My SME Growth Series. Just like usual, this edition promises to be interesting and extremely insightful. Today, we are going to be having Mrs. Timilola Adikwetin to speak to us. She is the founder and she's currently the MD and CEO of SKLD Integrated Services Limited, and they provide both educational and office supplies, branded items, and also technology garments. Before starting up our own company some 24 years ago, Mrs. Adikwetu, also known as Mrs. A, actually worked at Edex Petroleum and also our Hughes Consult Limited. Not only is she well experienced, she's also well educated, having attended both Unilag and the London School of Insurance. Please join us today as we look at the topic, establishing structures for business growth. The key areas that she will be focusing on include organizational structure and governance, exploring new opportunities in your business, and also the importance of documentation and financial records in obtaining a loan. Please tune in, join us, and enjoy the rest of the session. So I'm going to hand over to Mrs. A now. Thank you very much.
Wow. I've been told to tell the story of 24 years in 30 minutes. I'm wondering how I'm going to do that, but I'll give it a good try. I am Temilola Adepetun, the founder and CEO of SKLD Integrated Services Limited. Many of you may know us as School Kids back in the day before we rebranded in the year 2020 on our 20th anniversary. So, a lot of people ask me, how did it start? I started my career in oil and gas and I worked there for 14 years. And my first son gained admission into secondary school and I had to shop for him. I went all over the place from one market to the other every Saturday for 4 Saturdays, and I just thought, wow, why don't we have a specialty store for back to school? And that's when the idea was birthed. Anyway, I worked on it and I just thought, do I want to leave a plush job and start entrepreneurship that I didn't know anything about? But the more I thought of it, guess what? I was even 39, I was 40 by the time I was having this idea. So I just thought, you know what, at 40, start a business that can last for many years. Knowing myself, I'm very restless, and I just thought, start something that will last for many years. And anyway, oil industry from time to time, there are some downsizing exercises. What if you're a victim of one? What would you do? And so on. Anyway, I incorporated my store, I incorporated my business, and then I took the next plunge, the ideation stage. I decided to put the business idea to test. And I took my leave, my vacation, and I went to Dubai along with a friend who runs a business. And I took the list, school list of all my friends who are children in secondary school, and I bought everything on that list, just in minimum quantities, because I wanted to test a business idea with an exhibition, which I did over Easter in the year 2000, and I had a 2-day exhibition. It was very successful, so I knew that that business idea was very viable, and I got a lot of feedback from people who attended. So I decided to take the next step, resign from a plush job. And then I opened the first store in September of 2000. It was a roaring success. But within a few months, I realized that it was a very cyclical business. So what did I do with that, with the lull periods? I planned for the next back to school. So the first back to school was September. The next back to school was January. So I took that time to plan, look at what was in demand, look at what did not sell well so I wouldn't buy more of it, and so on. Did some analysis, and then I took my trip to America. I used to go to America, the US and UK, basically every 3 months. It was a bit hard, but I had to do it. And by this time I was 40 plus, going on 41. But I just thought, you know what, you have the strength, you can do it. And then I'll be logging all the trolleys and all things all over the place. But that first year was successful, so the back to school periods, then I knew that I could take advantage of half term and so on and so forth. Next stage, By the second year, I had gotten the hang of it. I had gotten the cycles, and I think we're just two when we started. I had to get an accounting company, to come in. I couldn't afford to engage an accountant, but I had to get an accounting firm to come in once a week to look at our books to make sure everything was okay. And we're still using manual invoices at that time. Anyway, fast forward, a friend of mine convinced me to go to the mainland, to open on the mainland, because I realized that in Lagos, if you're on the island, not everybody on the mainland would have the time to come to you because it's quite a distance. So in 2002, we opened the Ikeja store. It was an opportunity for us that came. There was a mall. And also, if we looked at the area, there were a lot of schools there. There were a lot of residential estates where parents could come and go and buy stuff on their way to school or on their way back, and so on and so forth. So that was when we took the first loan. And guess what stood me in good stead? Because I had hired an accountant before, outsourced the account, I had audited statements. So taking the first loan, I can tell you that your audited statements are your scorecards. It was a scorecard for me as an entrepreneur to know how well I had done. It was also an indication to the bank that I wanted to loan money from, that this business is a good business, that was making profit. So I was given the first loan, although way back then it was a cash back guarantee, because I'd been using my final entitlements as the capital for my business. But after 2 years, I realized that no, I shouldn't use my, everything. So I left part of it and got a cash back loan. And guess what? Within 6 months of opening that one, the one in Ikeja, it was even more successful and it yielded more revenue than the first one. So that told me that your location is also key. And also look at your business and look at, okay, what is the right environment for my business? For us, the right environment for our retail was residential estates and presence of schools within the area, within the axis that to make it, and then visibility on the high street, where people, passers-by, can even come in and see what you have. So we consolidated. And then listening to customers for their feedback is also very key. And at some point, some customers, started telling me, oh, our PTA, I need to talk to them. Maybe you should supply us our uniforms. And without thinking, I said, yes, we can supply you your uniforms. How did I think I was going to do that? I just realized that if more than one or two people talk about something, there's a business opportunity there. And anyway, I was traveling every 3 months to go to the US or the UK or both combined. If I'm buying for my retail, why can't I at the same time buy for a wholesale market? So by 2005, that is what birthed our wholesale. So we started with things like maybe PE t-shirts, and then I contracted out the making of the PE shorts locally. And then so many other things, nursery aprons, a few bits and bobs here and there. But that is when our wholesale division was birthed. By this time, we had 2 stores, and so 2005, 2006, I had to engage more people to be the marketing agents going to different schools to be able to get school contracts for us. And then we started consolidating on that. We now had 2 divisions. By 2008, I realized that the Aja axis, VGC, is so many other estates, Ikota shopping mall was there. So I just thought, oh, and we had a lot of customers coming to our island store, asking, why don't we set up there? So we just got a small shop there. And we started that in 2008, and it was very successful. Because it serviced from Shongotedo to VGC, for all the way to Chevron area and all that. So there was a niche market there. If you look at that axis, a lot of estates. So first comers advantage, look at your market, look at where you can expand to. I got a small shop. I did not just go ho-ha and get a big store. You have to take your risk, measured risks. That's what you need to do. And of course, it meant engaging more retail staff. But so I needed to move around a little bit more. By 2009, I started thinking, hey, in the morning, I lived in, I lived between Bagada and here, it was those times. In the morning, I'll go to one store, maybe the island, then in the afternoon, I'll cross over to the one on the mainland, and I just thought, no, you can't do this, you're going to run yourself ragged. So I just thought, hey, you're a 9-year-old business, you're old enough, a 9-year-old child can have a bath herself and stuff. So I said, you're old enough to have a head office. So I started looking for a head office. I actually wanted to buy one, but the sale fell through. I wanted to get a mortgage to buy one. But in the end, I rented one in Yaba. And at the same time, we now had extra space to be able to store our wholesale, inventory. And then I was able to set up a back office to engage our own accountant for the first time, to engage internal control, to expand our marketing team, and then to have an HR officer, because by this time we had 3 stores and all of that. And then opportunities started coming because I could work in a clearer environment, an environment where I was not interrupted by customers. And the feedback we got from both retail and school customers was that the uniforms we're buying from abroad were too short, the shorts were too short, the skirts were too short, and so on and so forth. And some complaints about quality. So I decided, hey, why don't you just start your own brand? I don't know anything about sewing. But I just thought, I know that other companies abroad, H&M, M&S, so many other big department stores in England, they outsource to Turkey and some other places, so long as you go to where there's good quality. So I went there. My first foray, actually, into trying to get my own brand was my first trip to China in 2007. I went to a friend of mine, and I didn't get the quality I wanted. So I just came back. I made my labels in Faith in 2007. My fashion label, my uniform label, but I didn't use it because I didn't get the right quality. So don't just settle for less. Make sure you maintain your quality. And so I now went to Turkey, where I was surer of the quality. And that was 2009, and that was when, and I think that year I must have traveled to Turkey about 3 or 4 times, maybe every month, because there was also the language barrier. But I bought an English and Turkish dictionary. I got somebody to tell me about the market, somebody, who was used to that market. I got an agent, with diagrams, measurements, numerics. It's an international language. And then we made our first set of uniforms from there. And we did that for a long time. And we didn't move away from the Turkey contract manufacturing until about 2013, 2014, because it was now getting expensive. So we did that, and then, like I said, 2009, 2010, we moved into, the head office, and we consolidated more. And then we realized we used to also, for visibility, we used to take part in school exhibitions, Children's Day Fair, Fun Day in different schools, end of year, and then educational exhibitions, both in Lagos and in Abuja. And we had been attending a particular one in Abuja for many years. And we realized that each time we wanted to get wholesale customers from Abuja, they would say, well, since you are not here, we cannot deal with you. So I knew that there was an integrity issue there. So we needed to also establish a presence. And we also had a lot of retail customers coming through our Ikeja store on their way to the airport, buying uniforms and back to school stuff from us. So we decided to test the idea, and we asked that organization, testing again, because you must always test. These days you do feasibility studies and all of that. But back then, it was just what I knew personally was to do a pilot scheme. So we got this organization to run an exhibition for us, and then she did it, and we had about 75 schools. They came from Kano, from Kirby, from Abuja, and all that, and I just thought, whoop, whoop, this is a new market. So we got a small store, again, in a wholesale market in 2012. So that was our first store out of Lagos, and I just thought to myself, wow, you are now in 2 cities. You know how gratifying that is? Anyway, fast forward, in that 2012, incidentally, when we came back from Abuja, I then realized what I had been suspecting for some time, that there was a massive fraud going on in my business. One of the staff had, was what they say, loading invoices, and also getting some cuts from different, anyway. When I discovered that, I realized that, hey girl, it's time. It's time for you to get good talent, people that can think and reason like you, dynamic people. Of course, by this time I was in my early 50s, so I needed, younger people to work with me. So I then approached a consultant. And the consultant came in, looked at our processes, reorganized the entire business. Okay, these are the departments you need, and this and that. At the end of the day, 2 major recommendations, apart from the regular reorganization and process improvement, 2, milestones recommendations came out of there, that I needed to engage a COO. My first thought was, COO, what will I be doing? I'd forgotten my age, obviously. And he said, no, you'll be doing a lot. You need to step back from the mundane, from the operations, and do the more strategic work. You need for somebody younger, more dynamic to be able to work with you to harness everything that you have built so far. And it appealed to me, and we set about doing that, and we did that. And so our COO, who is now our executive director and a shareholder of the company, he joined us in December of 2013. By the time we had we engaged a COO, obviously the small, maybe 100 square meters office space was too small, so we had to move into Gbagada and move into a building. And so we moved into that building in 2014. And then guess what I found? So the COO came in and said, do you have annual sales targets, ma? The consultant had asked me before, and I said no. So he too asked, do you have annual sales targets? I said no. So he put a lot of structures in place, established annual targets. I had started having annual retreats from 2007, but when he came, the retreat took a different tone entirely. We all sat down, looked at our annual budget, and everybody took ownership. Every department took ownership of what they had to achieve in that year. Needless to say, within 2 years of his joining us, our revenue actually doubled. And I was so grateful. And up till now, when I wake up sometimes and I look at where we are, I am grateful for the day that I met Mr. Tayo Oshiemi. He's our ED. And right now, we've called him all sorts of names. We called him CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, Chief Commercial Officer. He's everything. Of course, I'm stepping back. I have stepped back over the years. And how did I empower him? You don't just bring people in, you must empower them. How did I empower? After the first few management meetings, of course, we used to have weekly meetings before, but he instituted management meetings, very structured and all of that. Management performance review meetings and things like that. After maybe 3 or 4 months, when I saw how, there's this gut feeling you have, and then you also have system of checks and balances. I knew that if I didn't step back and step out of those meetings, the staff would still be referring to me. Because what they used to do, they would still defer to me. What they used to do, they ask me some things, and I'll say, no, I'm not the COO. So I just thought, you know what, just step out of that meeting. So I haven't attended that meeting in years. So, they have to know who their boss is. So I needed for them to know. And that's how you empower people. And the first thing I told him when he joined, I said, hey, forget the age gap. Just don't think about that. Look at me as your partner. In progress, whatever, if you have a different opinion, express it. And if you think I've done something wrong, please call me out, and I will do the same. And so that's how we've always operated. And it has worked very, very well for us. And he just showed up in my office one day and said, Ma, you've not done the last thing you're supposed to do. I said, what's that? He said, setting up a board. I started to scurry. Anyway, he gave me 2 weeks to set up the board. I had some names penned down, I just didn't follow up. And he said, for 2 major reasons. For corporate governance, for you to be accountable. Now that you have a strategic person working with you, for both of you to be accountable to the board on the one hand, and on the other hand, nobody will come to work for you if they feel that you're a one-man company. And they will not think of their career progression, if you don't have a board. So we set up the board, and we started the board we had our inaugural meeting in August of 2015. And that gave us so much, our first meeting gave us so much insight. Mr. Oshiemi was the one who presented all the, financial statement of affairs and so on. And, the advice we got that day was mind-blowing, and we realized the wealth of experience around the table and how important it is for you to be able to hear other people's perspectives about your business. And guess what? They too gave us 2 weeks to open our Lekki store. Now, let me tell you the story of our Lekki store. Our Lekki store, I said we opened in Lagos Island in the year 2000. Within 2 years, that location was no longer suitable, so we moved it to somewhere in Surah. And then after some time, we realized that Sura was not quite the area where our niche customers, the customers for our niche markets would want to come. And then it got very quiet at weekends. Sura is actually a wholesale shopping complex. So we moved it, after 4 years in Sura, we moved it to VI. And the VI store was very small because rent is quite expensive in VI, but it was a good location amidst offices and all of that and schools nearby. But after some time, that got too small for our range of inventory as we expanded. And so we started, we got another location in Lekki. And we were, taking our time renovating it. The board just said, no, you can't take your time. This is August, back to school is in September. Finish it as soon as you can and open within 2 weeks. So here we were, we opened within 2 weeks. And I can tell you that the Lekki store made more than, in those maybe 6 weeks, made more than the VI store had made the previous year. So that was a very good decision. What was also the critical success factor about our Lekki store? Two things. A lot of schools in Lekki, from creche to primary to secondary, so it was an enabling environment. A lot of residential estates around there, and it's a thoroughfare between, it's not far from Ikoyi, it's not far from VI. Essentially with the Lekki-Ikoyi bridge, it made things easier for us. So customers from Ikoyi and VI, Lekki, and anybody on the axis from Jakonde to Lekki 1. So the Lekki 1 has been quite successful. 2016, challenges, major challenge. Foreign exchange rates went through the roof. Remember I said most of the goods were being bought from UK and US, and then we had started producing in Turkey. So all that was foreign exchange based. And so that affected our business. And at the end of the day, we sat down and ED said, he knows a lot about fashion, that why don't we start our own backward integration? So we started with maybe 7 machines. So we rented a place in Magodo. We decided that, okay, this would form, to be a multi-purpose location, would have a retail store there, would have a small production facility there, and then would have warehouse space there as well. And because he had had prior experience with fashion and all of that, he was able to take ownership. Because I said, I don't know anything about fashion. He was able to take ownership of it, and it was a successful venture. Well, unfortunately, we met with a lot of resistance for the retail store there, being there in that. There were a lot of, I don't know, maybe local politics, and maybe also we had not done our research well. Anyway, we had to close that store down maybe 2 years later. But in another year or two, 2017, 2018, we consolidated, on what we had built. But by 2018, a lot of things started happening. This was now 5 years of his coming in, and then we had also, over time, we had engaged maybe, a good HR manager, procurement manager, people that were, experts in their own field. So it was a fuller management team. So in 2018, we had several opportunities which we took advantage of. And we were the subject of a survey from one of the big 5. Is it big 5 or big 4 consultancy companies? And I think UNICEF had commissioned the survey. And we were chosen as one of the companies that could be a supplier to UNICEF. And we started, our first set of supplies to UNICEF, and it was very good. In fact, in that financial year, Humanitarian Aid Supplies Division, which is now a division, contributed 25% of our annual revenue. So it was a new opportunity, which we qualified for. One, because of our retail footprint, because of our clear financial statements, tax compliance, and all of that, and also because we had a board. Secondly, Casio Calculators, through their Dubai and Middle East office, they also approached one of the sales managers to say, oh, they have been looking for a Casio distributor in Nigeria, and they had visited Nigeria several times. And but our company was attractive to them because of our retail footprint being in Abuja and then being in Lagos as well, 3 locations in Lagos, and they would like to partner with us. And so the sales manager took it to the ED. The ED told me, we sat down, we had a meeting, and we agreed. And then he now did most of the negotiations with the Casio team. And at a point, he told me, you know what, it's better for me when I'm going to on my next trip to China or to Turkey, let me just stop by at their Dubai office, and he did. And that also gave us some credibility. So till today, since 2018, we are the official distributor of Casio calculators in Nigeria through their Africa and Middle East office. And you'd see, if you look on our website, you see we've even had 2 conferences this year. We had a dealers conference, and then we had also educational showcase educational supplies showcase as well. Now, what lesson did I take from there? The opportunities, because you are the founder or CEO, the opportunities don't have to come through you. It came through a sales manager who brought it up. Now, if you silence those voices, you will not get very far. Look at what's happening around you, see what you can do, make sure that your products and your price lines are equivalent to what people can buy, and you have a market for it. So we did that and partnered with different local textile companies. But I can tell you that it was a very emotional moment for me. The day I walked into that warehouse, I kind of waited until all the machines had been installed. I was moved to tears when I went in there and I saw it, because from the first time I stepped into Turkey in 2009, when we wanted our own brand, I had always desired to have a factory. And that was a dream come true in 10 years. 10 years later. So sometimes you want something, but it may not be the right time for it. You may not be ready for it yourself. I didn't have any expertise, but between 2009 and 2013, somebody that had the expertise came along. You understand? So you may want something, but it may not be the right time for it. Wait for the right time and make sure you get the expertise to be able to run it. Don't just jump into something you don't know, and then you will not be able to control it. That's that's my advice. Anyway, 2020, we consolidated. The factory was, full swing, and the PE conversations were going. Then COVID struck. What do? All schools were shut down. Everywhere was shut down. What did we do? When the country reopened again, schools were still shut, because I think, if I remember correctly, schools were shut. The economy was reopened in May, June, and schools were not going to open till September. And we're back to school companies. So what were we going to do? Humanitarian aids, nobody was going to do that because you couldn't move around that much. Anyway, fortunately, again, the management team sat together and we decided that, okay, what's selling right now? Face masks. So we started producing reusable face masks. Sometimes you will need to pivot from what you are doing. There are what we call extraneous circumstances, exigencies, whatever you want to call them. A pandemic, nobody had ever experienced it. And then what we also did, got police permits, and we had to get out tabs. Luckily, we are selling tabs and some laptops here and there. We had to get some of those inventories out of our retail stores, just get them out on a day, take them to the warehouse. Luckily, we had started our e-commerce, website and all of that sales. And we got our dispatch riders to be delivering it to students at home. So we survived basically on the production of face masks and sales e-commerce of electronic educational learning aids during COVID. And at the same time, I was here on Zoom calls doing all the negotiations with all our bankers, our board, everybody, and of course we relied heavily on the advice of our board during the PE negotiations. And then when the country opened up, we were in the office doing due diligence. From employee records to corporate records to CAC communication on every side, to sales, to all our financial accounting records, HR, so many things, procurement, even there's so many angles that they asked for. And we were able, I'm happy to say, we were able to provide them. Yes, I know these days everybody will say go paperless. Yes, go paperless. But please, as you go paperless, make sure that you put all your documents in folders for every single aspect of your business. If you can have a backup, fine. Do the cloud, iCloud backup by all means. Sometimes you might need, the hardcover backup, but that was what saved us because there was no information that they asked for that we did not get. Even all the bank files, banks that we had relationships with or we had loans for, just to make sure that, we got letters of discharge, everything. And so it's important that from day one, you must keep your documents. From day one, do your accounts, do your financials, your audited financials every year. From day one, pay your tax, have evidence, have all your receipts, have everything ready. You must be, I call it loan ready. You must be loan ready because those are the things that any bank would ask for. And it's also a scorecard for you. There's one milestone during COVID that we achieved. It was our 20th anniversary. And we couldn't believe it that we were actually 20 years old. We couldn't have any big celebration, so we just had something small in the office, online. We invited people online. But the major thing we did to commemorate our 20th anniversary was the fact that, remember I said we started with retail, we added wholesale, and in 2018 we added both distributorship and humanitarian aid supplies. Now, our company name, School Kids Limited, became very restrictive. Much as your articles of memorandum can cover different things, your name has to be able to connote what you do, or you have a byline under your company name to kind of say what you do. So we had to do a lot of rebranding. So the first thing we did was we rebranded the company name from School Kids Limited to SKLD Integrated Services. And of course, the SKLD is School Kids, abbreviation for School Kids, and then the LD is just abbreviation for Limited. And then we changed our retail stores to skid stores. Those ones too were called the School Kids Store or School Kids Shop. We changed it to skid stores. So that made us open our first regional office in Abuja, which we opened in 2021. So it's both a regional office and a second retail store. And then we opened the first store in Port Harcourt, which means that we're in the 3 major cities in Nigeria, which was a great accomplishment for us. It also helped us to increase our fleet, vehicle fleet, motorbike fleet, so that our distribution among stores and customers, both retail and wholesale customers, and to our own stores was more efficient. And we were able to focus more on having, remember we had rebranded. And then we had also rebranded our skid stores. We decided that we're going to do a lot of, we're going to diversify our inventory, make sure that we sell not only for school, we do office supplies, with office, school, and lifestyle. So you see skid stores, and we have a byline, school, office, and lifestyle. So at that point, why did we choose to rebrand? Was I emotional about it? Not really. Was there a need for it? Yes. There was a need for it because UNICEF or other international NGOs will not give school kids something. They will not award you a contract for medical supplies if you are called school kids. So we needed to make sure that our company name changed to be able to reflect the several capacities that we had built over the years. You can't build capacity over the years and then start sticking to it. And you'll also see that companies where there are mergers, some law firms merge with other international companies and then they adopt their name or they incorporate it. So it's something that, yes, you give it a lot of thought. Strangely enough, I wasn't emotional about it. I just saw it as something that needed to be done. And then, of course, our logo for our retail became more interesting, more colors and all that. And you can tell that was not my doing, because by this time we have a brands and marketing department, a full-fledged graphics, brands and marketing department and all of that. And so fast forward the inventory diversification to make sure that our business was not so seasonal, because back to school business is seasonal. So we needed to keep some, people coming into the stores. So we had done it over the years in little bits, but we needed that cash injection. So we accomplished all of that in 2021. 2022, we opened the Surulere store because we needed a second mainland. Recall we had the two main island stores. Second mainland, Surulere, we had tested that idea by being in a mall, in the ShopRite Mall on Nadiru Nkusoya. We had a small store. We wanted to test that location just to make sure that, if we set up a store here, would it sell? Because it's very near wholesale markets like Ikmori and Tejusho. So you have to take your risk, take measured risk. So we took maybe 50 square meters store. Anyway, it was tried and tested, it was successful. Unfortunately, it was vandalized during the EndSARS. But undeterred, we waited for some time, claimed our insurance. Is important. From day one, please insure all your assets. Insure your company assets. You may not own the building, it does not mean you don't insure all your inventory and everything. Even up to the insurance will even ask you for the rent you pay, because they can give you loss of rent if you have to go and rent somewhere temporary. Well, maybe it's also because I studied insurance as my second degree, but I made sure from the very first day we had insurance. So anytime we had any losses, we've always, reverted to insurance. So we're paid some compensation, not full, doesn't matter. But we took our time, rested for about a year or so, and then we came out with a big bang and got a building on the high street in Surulere to make ourselves more visible. And so that store is now about 2 years old. We opened it in June. We're supposed to expand also to Kano and I think Ibadan. But guess what? After COVID, the world did not recover as fast as everybody thought it would. And there were a lot of supply chain disruptions. Freight was very expensive. So many things happened. So we had to curtail our expansion plans. So sometimes you may desire to do something, but you have to look at the viability. Are you stretching yourself too thin? Or do you want to consolidate where you are and watch how the economy is going? Because in Nigeria, really and truly, we live in what you call the VUCA world. A VUCA world is volatile, uncertain, competitive, and ambiguous. I know that a lot of us, should I say, sometimes we stumble into business, or sometimes we start it as a passion or as a hobby. It's a passion for us and it's a hobby. And then we wake up one day and it's grown into a business. But no matter what you do, I have a few nuggets that I would like to give to you. That once you decided that this is going to be your business, there are different classifications of business. We have cottage industries, we have micro businesses, we have SMEs, we have MSMEs, and all of that. Don't be afraid of the classification. We all started from somewhere, And so what I would say is, as you start, the little structures you can put in place are this. First of all, have your company accounts. It does not look nice for someone to buy a nice leather bag, a nice laptop bag from you, or to buy something you've produced, and then you're asking me, please send it to Temilola Adikbetun's account. I've told one of our vendors before that if you don't open a company account, we will not be able to do business with you. He was a printer. So it's important. It gives you credibility. Please, they've made it easier now. CAC has made it easier. You can do so and so ventures, Temilola and Co, Shegun and Co ventures. You can register your business name. You can do business, limited liability. Do whatever you want, but please do something. And you can do it online. You are not leaving your house. Please do it. And go to the bank and have a company account. It makes you more credible as a person. Then the second thing, a lot of us believe that, that company account is my personal account. No, it is not. It is a company account. One of the most valuable pieces of advice that I got back then was that every amount of sales that you have, you must always deposit it in the bank. In other words, if you're a fashion designer and 4 customers pay you a total of 300,000, and you have another order tomorrow where you need to buy items worth 200,000. Hello, go and deposit that 300,000 in the bank first. Then withdraw the 200,000 for the raw materials of your new order. Why do I say so? It doesn't make sense. Why can't I just take the 300,000 and just, assuming these days nobody does cash anyway, assuming you got cash. The reason is this. Your bankers, first of all, will see your cash flow. They will see your cash inflow and know have an idea. It may not be total. Have an idea of what your total revenue is. And if you have more than one bank account, if you put all the 3 together, you yourself will know what your total revenue is. That's 1. 2, it's also a discipline for you. You must be disciplined, because by the time you go for that loan, later on when you want to expand, your bankers can look at everything and they see that, oh, being a retail store, when we first started, it was cash based. We used to deposit money every single day, of course, except, and then for Monday deposit to be Saturday sales. So any banker could see that every day we're depositing sales. Because what condition do the banks tell you where you want to pay? What do you sign? That this loan will be repaid by the daily proceeds of the sales of my business. How are they going to verify that? From your past records. Historical records are very important. And it also makes sure that your staff, as much as possible, they too will not take the money because they know that they are accountable. Talking about structures, what are the first few structures you put in place? I'm talking about the startup stage, year 1, year 2. I mentioned having an accountant. You may not be able to pay for an accountant directly, to engage an accountant full-time, but there are accounting firms that can outsource one person to you that will come to you once a week or once a month. They will look at your books and they will be able to tell you, they will do your P&L and be able to tell you, okay, this is what you've made. They will do your cash flow and you would have an idea of where you are. In addition to that, back then, maybe there was no software, but by my 2nd year of operations, I can tell you that I looked out for software. It was somebody, accounting software, sales and accounting software. It's important that whatever you do, even if it's 10 products you are selling, please, there are a lot of free trial accounting softwares online. There are some you can get a license for. Whatever it is, you must have some software to track your sales, your inventory, everything, because that's what helps you to do your analysis. In terms of an auditor, Nigeria is a place, anywhere you operate business in the world, you must have your annual financial audited statements, and you must pay tax. So please always be on the right side of the law. Sometimes they say, oh, okay, if it's your lawyers will tell you that if it's a business name, you may need to pay only withholding tax and not other tax, but I'm not a tax expert. We have tax experts for that. We have our financial consultants who take care of the tax. So, and at a point when you want to recruit special skilled people, experts in different fields, it's better for you to go through a recruiter. You may not know, you and I may not know where to get such people, but when you contact a recruiter, the recruiter can help you get such a person. And please, 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 I don't want to say this cliche thing that they say that when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. But the truth of the matter is that, yes, sometimes some of us feel, oh, a recruiter will charge me a percentage of the person's salary and all of that. But it's worth it. I can tell you that it's worth it so that you get the right person. If you don't get the right person in, you make so many mistakes and you lose money. You lose money and you lose time. In terms of structure, as your business is growing, you cannot be jack of all trades and master of none. Yes, initially I was admin, purchasing officer, HR officer and all that. As you are growing, you need to know that, okay, we are 5 or we are 10. I need somebody to handle admin. That person can do admin and HR. at the same time. And sometimes you can ask a friend or you can ask an HR person to come and say, I've run this business for 4 years. Please, can you come and look at it? Just look at our processes and tell me what we need to do. And you need to be able to take that advice on board. Ask questions all you want. But if you don't have those systems in place, like by the time we started the wholesale, I knew that was 4 or 5 years down the line. I knew that I had to get marketing people in, people who had prior marketing experience. I also knew that I had to invest in a car for marketing. So I invested in the tiniest, what's it called? I first bought a cargo van, and then I invested in the tiniest Hyundai Accent then at the time. It was manual. I couldn't afford to buy. Of course, it was lease. I did not buy outright. But guess what? I would not have been able to apply for the lease to buy those vehicles if we did not have audited statements and we did not have an accountant that will prepare a cash flow projection for the bank to be able to give us that lease. Even when we moved to the headquarters and we needed to get a generator, we still needed to lease that generator because as a trader, my mentality is that I cannot put 10 million down on one when I can use 8 million out of it to buy inventory. I'd rather use 2 million as a deposit for the lease and pay over time. But as a business, you will not be eligible for lease of all these things, and it will hamper you if you don't have your audited statements and you don't have financial track record of your financial transactions. Then getting the right people in place, using some consultants. I'm never afraid about the price or the fees of consultants. In fact, I'll wear my best suit, carry my best handbag, have a meeting with the consultant. Then I will negotiate and I'll tell you that, okay, you know what, I can't pay this fee at once, but can we stagger it over a period of time and relate it to certain milestones? And that way is doable. If you have a mindset that, they are going to charge me 1 million, no, you can probably pay 800,000, you can pay 200,000 in three tranches or something like that. In addition to, I think I've talked a lot about finances, but in addition to that, you have invested in your inventory. You have invested in furniture. You have office space and all that. Please, 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 ladies and gentlemen, you must insure all these company assets. And you must have a fixed asset register where all your company assets are numbered and you have insured them. A loss can happen at any time. We've heard of overnight fires, we've heard of water damage, we've heard of so many things. It's important that you take that because you can't move forward. Sometimes some companies suffer losses and they are ashamed to even tell you that they do not have insurance. And millions of dollars of inventory is burnt and is lost. Sometimes it may not be burnt, it may even be smoke damage. Advertising. Some people feel, okay, I will just do Instagram and that's it. I can't do LinkedIn. No, I can't do paid adverts. I can't do this, I can't do that. Please know that if you do not pay, to get your brand out there, yes, social media is good, but there are some other platforms that sometimes you need to pay to join so that you can be visible. There are different channels of advertisements. Back in the early days when we didn't have social media, I used to pay for, like all these soft sell magazines. I used to pay for radio jingles on Wazobia, Prime, this Rhythm and School FM and all that. We pay for radio jingles. If you can't afford 45 seconds, do 30 seconds, whatever it is. But there are different channels of advertising. And accountants will tell you that, maybe you need to spend up to 2% of your annual revenue on advertising. If you don't, advertising is investing in yourself and investing in your business because I always say nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you don't spend that money, then you are not going to get the gains. Okay. I had mentioned earlier that I took my very first loan in 2002. Believe me, I've taken several loans after that. Yes, you need to have collateral. But the first thing that struck me when I was given the forms to fill for the loan, it was a scorecard for me. I looked at it. Okay, what property do I have? How many shares do I have? What, because then you could do share backs. You could use your shares as collateral before the stock market crashed back then. It's important. Of course, they will ask you for your financial statements. You might need to sign personal statements of personal net worth and things like that. So you can. I know all the terms. So it's once you have your audited statements, you have your cash flow, you have, sometimes they will say, oh, they want to see evidence of your contracts with some of your major customers. You need to have all those things in place. Your documentation is key. Don't just have any loose agreements with the clients that, this client says, I can supply them 100 iPads every year. They want to use it for corporate gifts. No, you have to have it in an agreement, because some of those things, they will come useful, because you want to go and buy the inventory and the bank will tell you, what's the guarantee that this company will buy it from you? If you provide the contract, and if it has, and of course you need to have a lawyer. I'm not saying engage a lawyer to work with you. Have a law firm that either you pay from time to time or put them on retainer, such that if you need advice, they can give it to you and they can review your contracts for you. So having contracts with your major clients, especially when it involves bulk supplies, is very important. Having contracts with some of your suppliers is also very important, because for us that we've determined the fabric composition of some of our uniform brands, we have contracts with them, to say, this is our IP, this is this, you must not make it for anybody, you must not this, you must not that. So it's important, because they want to see all those things. Sometimes we've had banks or other organizations ask us before, in terms of risk management, it seems as if you are overly reliant on this client. So what if this client removes your business? Because that's how you are going to get positive feedback from people from other organizations. It's important. And then I had mentioned making sure that you bank every amount that comes in, every inflow has to go into the bank. Because when you take a loan, the documentation I've talked about and comes into play in addition to your cash flow history, because the statement you are going to sign, apart from the collateral you are going to give, is that you are going to pay this loan out of your sales proceeds or out of whatever it is, or when I've executed this contract and I'm paid, I'm going to pay it to you. Some banks will even insist that you are going to open the account, an account with them, a separate account apart from your regular operations account. They will insist that open a separate account for this project that you are applying for funding for, and make sure that it's that bank account, that the sales will be domiciled with them, and it will go straight into that bank. And they will want to see evidence that you have written to your client. So it's important that let's not be lackadaisical, or let's not be flippant, or very casual about business transactions. They're real. And then you see, because some of us don't have all these things in place, and sadly, when we are asked what are our first challenges, sadly the first thing you say is funding. But have we positioned ourselves to be able to access that funding? That's the important question I want everyone to ask themselves today. So if you have not opened your corporate account, or if you have not been strict with yourself to pay all your inflow into your account, or if you don't have audited statements, or if you are not projecting yourself, if you are not running your business ethically, if you are not on the right side of the law, we must be on the right side of the law, because some of these things, some of the opportunities available, we don't have access to them because we've not done the right thing. So I want us to, examine ourselves. I don't want anybody to feel sober today, but just examine yourself and find out, did I take pension for my staff? We're 5, we're 10. Because some parastatals have asked us for pension certificates before. And, so all those things. And discipline. Apart from pension, the health management schemes, we have 20 people. Do we take out HMO for them? The next thing is, do we believe in training our staff? Sometimes we just look at our team members as I will just give instructions. The fact that you are the founder does not mean you are the only one that can give instructions or you are the only one that has ideas. Let's train our staff. Back then we used to, because we didn't have the internal expertise. Now we do, so we train in-house. Back then, I used to send my team, a friend of mine used to run customer service programs. I used to send every retail, when we have about 4 or 5 retail people, or as little as 2 new people, I used to send them for customer service training, and sometimes we do refreshers. Now we do those trainings in-house. We have customer service training in-house for our sales team, a wholesale team and our retail team, because we have to keep on, you have to have a culture. You have to keep on re-emphasizing and recreating what you want, how you want your customers to be treated. So, and then what is our communication style? What is our management style? Do we micromanage? Do we empower our team? Because many times we shoot other people's ideas down. It's important that you empower your teams. I know that a lot of you will be curious that, you've run your business for 20 years. And so why did you have to take an investment? Why did you have to take on a private equity investment fund, as it were? Yes, your dream is not limited. And for all of us, truth be told, Yorubas have a saying that owo lafin wowo, that means it's money. We use money to look for more money. And so if you want your company to play on a global level or international level, or you want it to be world-class or top-notch, whatever adjective you want to describe it with, it gets to a point where you have to admit to yourself that you personally, you don't have enough funds to get your company to that point. But if you desire it enough, you can go for private equity investment. Like I said earlier, choose the right partner. And at the same time, a lot of people ask me, did you not feel funny that you are losing control? I said, no, I'm not really losing control in that sense. You have to make up your mind. Do you want the big portion of a very small pie that will remain small? Or do you want a small portion of a big pie? Do you want that fulfillment of having built a top-notch, world-class company? Do you want to leave a legacy? Because those are some of the questions that the consultant asked me when he came in back then in 2013. Ma, what do you want for this company? And the first thing that came out of my mouth without thinking was, I want this company to outlive me. And that's the trajectory we are on. Like I said, I stopped attending the management meetings years ago because I wanted the ED to take over. Now the ED is officially the successor. I've stepped back. I do my bit, but he runs the company. And of course, we also have a COO that works with him. We have head of internal control, head of finance, head of procurement, head of logistics. We have so many other heads of, experts in their own fields that work with the CEO and work with the ED to get us to where we are today. So am I fulfilled? Am I happy? Yes. Have I given up quite a bit? Yes. But it's all a mind thing. What's your mindset? I leave you with this. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. Build a good team. Develop your team. Aim for the best. Never compromise your standards. Standards of your products, your services, whatever it is. And always be that ethical company that does well, that obeys the laws of the land. Aim for the sky, which is not even your limit. Age is not a barrier. From my story, I started my business when I was 40. I'm going to be 65 in a few months. I'm still going strong, but I'm not involved in running the business on a day-to-day basis anymore. you must hand over to the next generation, next gen, as you say. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow entrepreneurs, I hope you have taken away a thing or two from this episode of SME Growth Series by EcoBank. Now I can take your questions.
So thank you very much, Mr. Adikpetu. Okay, so before we begin with the Q&A session, I would like to ask that if anyone has questions, they should just kindly drop it in the chat box so that we can treat the questions. Thank you very much. But most definitely, I found the session to be very insightful. I mean, a lot was said and a lot of points were made. But for me, the key things I picked were, firstly, take advantage of opportunities because you can never know. It could actually just be your lucky day. Then also, it's good to wait for the right timing. Sometimes you need to exercise patience. And while doing that, also make sure you gathered like the necessary expertise before you venture into that field. Then also, I mean, it also spoke about how sometimes it's necessary to pivot from what you normally do. I mean, I remember that she cited the example of how she moved from during COVID period, how they moved to start producing face masks. So yes, the session, a lot was learned. I wouldn't even lie about it. So yes, we move on to the Q&A session now. So the first question we have, the first question here says, I have been operating my business informally and doing pretty well. Is it still necessary to formalize and put structures in my business?
Yes, it is still, I would say it is because, you know, we're not, how will I say, we're not indispensable. It's better to put structures. For instance, if you are running your business and it's doing pretty well, if you have to be out for 1 month, can your team run your business? That's the litmus test. So if you don't have anybody that can do practically the same things as you do, or if you don't have a well-oiled machinery, like they say, then you still need to put structures in place. I hope I've answered the question. If
Yes,
not,
you have.
put something there. All right. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So another person says, ma'am, what are some effective strategies for establishing a strong governance structure in a non-profit organization? And how can we leverage technology to streamline operations and drive business growth?
Okay. With a non-profit organization, I would say, because I saw that there are quite a few questions on non-profit organization. A non-for-profit organization is practically the same as a for-profit organization because you need, first of all, a board of directors for corporate governance, and that will also give you credibility, people that are known, people that, when they approach or when, any potential partner or corporate organization sees their name as one of the members of the board, will be willing to put some money down. So I just put down a few points. The kind of structure, I believe the question is, can you repeat the question so I can just pick the salient points, please?
Okay, so thank you, Ma. You answered the question expertly.
No, I said, can you repeat the question? Because I wanted to add more points so that I can just pick the salient points.
So the person says, ma'am, what are some effective strategies for establishing a strong governance structure in a non-profit organization? And how can we leverage technology to streamline operations and drive business growth?
Okay, so for that, I mentioned credible directors already. When you have people that are sponsoring, you have corporate organizations or you have individuals that are contributing to your non-for-profit organization, you have to have accountability. That means you have to have the accountant in place. You have to make sure that annually your sponsors, you give them the statement of account, you show them the financials, and then you give them the statement of affairs where they know how many beneficiaries you have served and so on and so forth, so that they can know that their money is being put to good use. So that in that way, you need either an in-house accountant, well, both an in-house accountant or like the ones I mentioned earlier, and an audit firm as well. In terms of technology, yes, you use social media. There's a lot of social media that we can use, to raise awareness for your non-for-profit. And at the same time, whatever you are doing, your activities is not just to ask for donations alone, but it's that's social media. It's also to mention your success stories in your social media accounts, I think, and then make sure that your board of directors, you include them in some of your decision making. So that it's, have good quality decisions at the end of the day. And of course, you hire an experienced program director who has, experience in that, and putting your systems of checks and balances in place.
Most definitely, accountability is key. It's extremely key. So thank you very much for that answer. It was really well done, Ma. So another person says, what can I do to improve my business structure without spending too much money?
Well, I often advise, it depends on how big the business is. I don't have context here. It depends on how long the business has been in existence or how big the business is. Now, I mentioned earlier, you can't get to your destination without spending money. And if you want to put businesses in place, where structures in place means it's a wide scope. It means having your proper organogram, engaging the right people in the right places, making sure that you have the right people. Also, the second part of it is, what are your business processes like? Are your business processes efficient? Now, for anybody to review your business processes, you need a consultant. So, but there are also different levels of consultants. So you need to be able to spend the money in actual fact. I know you say without spending too much money. So sometimes you need an HR consultant to help you with looking at your structure to see what do you need, what is lacking, what are the gaps. If in case you don't have an internal controller and you deal with inventory, they will advise you on that. What are your business processes? Is it efficient? So you might need to engage either one consultant or two. And if you know some, and most of them will not take the money up front. It's based on deliverables and you have to work towards it. But remember that at the end of the day, whatever you are spending on that, or on that process improvement and establishing the structures and recruiting the right people, the right experts to be in place, it's an investment in your business. So don't look at it as I don't want to spend too much money, as if you are throwing the money away. You are not. It's an investment in your business, and it's to make you better and more efficient.
Okay, thank you. Most definitely, having consultants on your team is crucial. I mean, because of the professional insights they will bring to your business, and that could help you even in things as decision making. So yes, that's extremely correct. So another person says, how can I keep financial records when I don't have an accountant or finance officer? How do I start keeping track of my business transactions?
Okay, well, the easiest thing to do is, okay, you don't have an accountant and you don't have an auditor. Okay, do you have a point of sale software? That's the first question I would ask. There are a lot of, software, point of sale software for, if you're providing services or if you're selling goods, products or services. We have QuickBooks. We have so many other ones that you can get a free trial online. That's what you should do. And keep your records, keep your contract records. The easiest way, when I first started, I remember the easiest way was maybe for the first few months, I just used Excel sheets to keep track of all my business, transactions. So you can start from a little way but make use of technology that is out there. And like I said, it's not that expensive to get an accountant. We're not saying pay somebody $300,000 or $500,000 a month. We're saying approach an accounting firm They will second somebody to you who will come to you once a week, and then they will record everything. They will sit with you, record everything. Then you will know where you are going. You know what your scorecard is. You know what your performance is. I hope that works.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. So another person says, the Nigerian business environment is becoming very volatile. How does one navigate to succeed in business?
Yes, it is volatile and increasingly so. But most importantly, what we should do is to keep our eyes and ears open, for the different changes as it affects our businesses. That means we have to know what's going on in the news. We have to watch for customer behavior and all that. But what we have done in-house is, because since we have a team, we have a diverse team that have their specialty in different areas. We sit down and have strategy sessions and say, okay, now these 4 developments or these 2 developments, this is how they are going to affect our business. How do we mitigate it? We can't take it out totally. How do we mitigate the effect? If we say, for instance, the increase in foreign exchange rate, we had to do that. We had to look at that, and we just thought, if we apply the entire increase, like, okay, the increase in foreign exchange has made everything expensive. How will our customers afford it? So in some areas, for some products, we had to reduce our own profit margin because we could not pass everything to the consumer. And that's because we look at it that we are riding a storm right now. And at the same time, we want to keep our market share. The other thing we did was that we increased the variety of our products. Instead of selling just premium for some items, selling just the premium, the very high levels for some items, we decided to bring in another, level, so that we can have different price points for different people for affordability, because we know that salaries are not increasing as, as much as the prices are going up. All right. I hope that's fine.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. Okay, so another person is asking, what are the common mistakes to avoid when establishing structures for business growth in Nigeria?
Common mistakes. I would say, well, when we say we are establishing structures, it's not just the structures of this, the procedure, this and that. There are 2 major things. Establishing structures and how the structure can work for you is, it depends on the quality of people that you have in your business, your human capital, I would say. So your human capital, okay, you need an expert, you need a procurement expert, you need a supply chain expert. How well did you recruit? Did you recruit the right person? And you have to be truthful to yourself. And then what is your, do you establish OKRs for them? That's objective key areas, result areas. Do you establish objective key result areas for them? Do you evaluate them, after a few months? For instance, we have a 6 months probation period when somebody starts first. But the next thing we did was that we just thought, you know what, we can't wait for the 6 months before having the confirmation appraisal. Let's give the person feedback within 3 months. Because in 3 months, the person should have settled down and we should have been able to see the person's work ethic. So that's on one side. The other side is compliance. Who is monitoring compliance to the processes, to the procedures? Who is doing all that? We have an internal control department, and then we ourselves, as senior managers, we follow compliance. If you are supposed to submit a report at this time, who is watching out whether you are submitting it or not? Because that's the only way. If you set up a beautiful structure and you don't have the right people, they say putting the person in the round, putting a square person in the round peg hole or something. If you don't have the right people there, and if there's no compliance, then that structure is good for nothing. It's just a fancy framework. So those are the 2 major things that you have to look out for. I hope that works.
Yes, it does. Most definitely, compliance is key, because just like as you said, if there's no compliance, the structure is as good as useless. Mm-hmm. So thank you. So another person is saying, what's your take on attending exhibitions? My business has spent some money on this, but we haven't made sales from it.
Yes, that's a common notion that people have. Actually, the true reason why we attend exhibitions, because we've attended exhibitions, so many, and we're still attending. Please just get one thing straight. It is just for visibility. It is for awareness, for people to see you. It is not for you to make sales. If you make sales, all well and good. That is an added bonus. But over time, yeah, I learned the hard way as well. I used to be disappointed initially that we didn't even make a lot of sales. But later on, when people started coming into the shop, that, oh, I saw you at so exhibition. Sometimes when people come to the exhibitions, they may not have enough money to buy the, especially the more expensive stuff because they didn't come prepared. So let's us attend exhibitions with the mindset that we're creating visibility for ourselves, we're making people more aware of our brands, and we have one-to-one, they can actually see the quality of what the services we are providing or the goods we sell, and we have one-on-one interactions with them. So it's important, it's important that you interact with your customers when they visit your stand. It's not for that day's sales, it's for the future and referrals.
Yes, definitely. Visibility is key, and it's something that business owners or even SMC owners should not underestimate, because that is what eventually leads to good sales. Good visibility also usually equates to also outstanding sales in the long run.
Yes.
So
Just
another person.
1 minute. Just look at the cost of the exhibition as an advertising cost. So if you are not obviously now hardly anybody advertises the newspapers. So let's say it's an advertising cost. So just add it to your advertising cost. That's what we do. Thank you.
So yeah, so when going for these fairs, these exhibitions, one should not be looking at how do I make sales. They should just look at it as a platform for, oh, we're putting our business out there, we're promoting ourselves, basically.
Yes.
So yes, thank you. So another person says, what simple governance measures can I adopt as a small business owner?
What single?
The person says, what simple governance measures can I adopt as a small business owner?
Oh, governance as a small business owner. Well, my first governance measure was auditor. So apart from the accountant that you have that can come in, which could be through your auditor, but the auditor. So in the initial days, I used to ask the auditor, to come in and look, maybe once in 6 months. And of course, they will ask questions when they find some, irregular items. So, so that's the first, governance that we had. If you can't afford to have a board, but sometimes you can also have, some people even have advisory boards where you don't really pay them much. I know I belong to some advisory boards where they don't even pay us anything, but it's advisory, but it's only, it's just a few. And they will just say, okay, I need, because, for me, maybe a small entrepreneur who is starting or who I had mentored or who I taught in the past to say, oh, can you be on my advisory board? So that could be an advisory board. Sometimes you have mentors where you make sure that you have those mentors that you talk to from time to time, and they can be your system of governance. But an advisory board is just as good as, having another board, and make sure that you are upfront with them. Tell all. That's what's most important. Don't hide your mistakes.
Yes, most definitely. You do not hide your business at all. For a business that wants to grow and is looking for an increase, you cannot afford to hide yourself, definitely. Yeah. So another person says, how can formalizing my business structure help me attract customers, suppliers, or even investors?
Customers, suppliers, and investors. That's a tall order. So for customers, well, it depends on what kind of business you do. I don't know whether it's a product or a service since I don't have context. But obviously, before you started the business, you must have done your research. You must have known that, okay, this is a need or you are solving a problem. So you have to look at a lot of things. Am I, if you are selling products or services, whichever it is, am I located in the right place? Am I advertising the way I should advertise? How else will people know me? Because I started from the customers, because you have to have the customers. It has to be a thriving business before you can attract, was it investors and suppliers? For suppliers, you need to just sit down and do the research. And what also helps is if you have friends or if you know people that are in the same line of business as you, sometimes some people are willing to be a mentor. You say, please, or people, where can I get this? But you see, the internet is there. Some of us, I think we have a mental block to technology. The internet is there. You can literally search for anything. And I used to sit for hours back in the day searching on the internet. And that's when we even had desktops. We didn't have laptops all over the place, like we do have now. You can search for a lot of these things and you can travel to those places. The world is now a global village, and see what they have. And then just like even the traders in Okeari, the traders in Ikmori, they do groupage. Some of them, it's not everybody that travels. They do groupage. Okay, we want to sell these things. Let's do groupage. So there are so many things. So you need to establish your customer base and how to attract them, based on how, except if you just open the business out of, okay, let me just do something, you need to have done all of that before you can even start thinking about investors. First of all, satisfy the banks. Let a microfinance bank, look at what you are doing, or a small bank, look at what you are doing before you can even talk about investors. Talking about investors is actually a big deal because there's a lot required. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ma. So the last question here, it says that in putting governance in place to grow my business, I am concerned about losing control. Do you have any advice that can help?
Losing control. You said inputting what structures?
Putting governance in place to grow my business.
It's not about losing control. For instance, if you say, okay, I have this 10-year-old company and I need to have a board, whether it's a regular board of directors or whether it's an advisory board, they are not working in your business. They are not coming in to sit down in your office. You are asking them for advice. You are you are accountable to them because you put them there because they're a good sounding board. There are people who know about corporate work ethics. You want to have somebody that will put you on the right track. So you put out all your information out there, your financials, your plans, what you have done, and where you made a mistake. Yeah, you say it. Because if you can't take feedback, honestly, you can't run a business. So it's not about losing control. They're not coming in to sit down. They're just coming in to advise you, to say, oh, maybe you should do this. Maybe you should do that. Oh, you should not have done that. Oh, maybe the best thing would be to shut down this company, this particular arm. Think about it. Or maybe it's better for you to concentrate on this one. Think about it. There are people that are outside your business that will be more objective than you are. They are not forcing you to take their advice. But if they are a board established and registered with the CAC, you better take their advice and you must have carefully chosen them. That's another thing. You don't choose your closest friends or whatever. You choose people that are experts in their own field, who you have done research on, and you can trust their judgment. And they, in turn, will be able to give you good advice.
Okay, thank you. So one question actually just came in now, and the person says, for a startup that cannot afford accountants, auditors, and people and things like that, can they learn having a sales target at first for a few months or a year? So let me come again, sorry.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For a startup, can a line up for growth be having a sales target at first or a few months or a year to make some money to afford these experts, getting a strategist or auditor next?
So is the person asking, okay, if I'm to get the question correctly, is the person saying that a startup may not be able to afford to have an auditor or to have a strategy consultant immediately.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, that could be so. But at the same time, like I said, there are different levels. There are even some of these people that are your friends. There are some of these people that work in bigger corporate organizations that you can just sit down and talk to them and say, hey, I need your advice. That's where mentors come in. Mentors, they're not charging you with anything. So they can give you, just a rough outline of what you should do until such a time as you can afford it. And I don't know how much the accounts companies charge, but if they want to send somebody to you once a month, I don't think it will be an earth-shaking amount. If they are sending somebody to look at your books once a month, it's important that your financials are properly recorded. So if they are, for me, as I told you, I'm never afraid of going anywhere. I'll ask the questions. I'll call you. And if I'm not going to go to the big four accounting firms or consultancies to say, I want to engage your services. There are individuals that have retired from, blue chip companies who can, who offer these services these days. So it's for you to shop for the right and affordable accountant or auditor. That's what I would say. A strategy consultant, yes, maybe 2 years down the line, but use your friends, use your network. I'm sure you all have networks that you can rely on and ask. Don't keep everything to yourself. Ask people, oh, I need this, I need this. Do you know anybody who does it? You'll be surprised that the answer you're looking for is right there.
Okay, so thank you, Ma. I mean, most definitely in the world of business, they will always tell you that if you do not understand something, ask questions, because to be honest, you don't really, there's not much to lose, to be honest. Like, it's better to have that clarity than to go about making mistakes that could have been avoidable if you had just simply asked and gotten clarity. So this brings us to the end of this session. Thank you very much to everybody for joining in. And also thank you very much to Ms. Timilola Adikpetu. Even before we wrap up, I must mention that her company, SKLD Integrated Services Limited, just actually celebrated their 24th anniversary. Recently, they celebrated it. It seems to be earlier this month that it was celebrated.
On Monday.
Congratulations, Ma. And most definitely, this business is an example of a business that you can see that they put in the right structures. Like, there are structures in place for a business to last this long and to be successful at this rate. Most definitely, she did everything right. So thank you very much to everybody once again. Thank you very much to Ms. Timilola Adikpetu for joining us on this session. This session was brought to you by the MySME EcoBank. To download the MySME app, the link is in the chat box. And to view this edition of the MySME Growth Series, you could always check our YouTube page. You could just go on YouTube and type EcoBank Nigeria, and you would see the recordings of previous sessions. So my name is Oluwajomiloju Jutoki. This is the EcoBank MySME series, and it's brought to you by EcoBank Nigeria. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day and take care of yourselves. Au revoir, as they say in French. Bye.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and a delight to be on this session, and I'm glad I was able to answer most of the questions.
Ma. It's a pleasure, Ma. Thank you very much. This session was nothing but insightful. I mean, I wish we could be having this every week, because what I have learned, it's been nothing but phenomenal. I mean, this is what somebody who go to school 1 year to learn. We've broken it down to us in 2 hours. Thank you very much, man. This was amazing. Thank you for your time. Even the chat box too, people are saying thank you, Ma. Time well spent, and 100%. I agree with them. We learned. Thank you very much to everybody, because I know that some of the people joining us were even at work, but they took time because they told themselves that, yes, I must learn. I mean, this is going to be a well of knowledge. So thank you very much, Ma, for your time. Thank you to everyone, and have a lovely weekend ahead. Enjoy the rest of your month, and goodbye. Take care to everyone. Bye. My name is Oluwajomiloju once again. Thank you. Bye.